It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome into Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 55 today. We are really glad to see you and glad that you are with us today, celebrating clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. There are 168 hours per week. We wish that we could be with you for all 168 hours, but you know how life goes, other things going on, but we do get this one special hour to enjoy with you living the clothes-free life, again, for all of the right reasons. So come on in. The pool is ready to go. The hot tub is fired up. The grill is going full blast. Fruit and vegetables off to the right. Your favorite cold drinks off to the left. If you prefer a hot drink, those are inside. Plenty of towels and suntan lotion. Just enjoy the sunshine and the breeze on your skin as we enjoy the next hour together. Well, on today's show, we have a very big announcement for you. Instead of me doing it alone up front, I'll save it for when Lisa Monroe comes in just a few minutes. Huge announcement. You might have seen the so-called soft opening within the last few weeks and a very hard opening a day or two ago. Well, today we're going full bore. We're putting it on the show. Big announcement today, so I'll save that again for when Lisa Monroe comes in. We will also have a short interview with author MJ Edington. He contacted us a little while back and asked for an interview to promote his new book, which features naturism, nudism, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. His book is entitled Naked Came the Hunter, so a brief interview with author MJ Edington today. After that, we will bring in Lisa Monroe. We'll talk about a number of things, including our big announcement. And then our featured guest today is Dava from Tennessee. You might remember her. She was on the show in January, had a brief interview. She had written to us back in December of 23 and said, "Hey, why is naturism so white?" She identifies or is a black female naturist. And when she and her husband go to nudist places, resorts, beaches, etc., they feel as though they're the only black people in the place. Well, we talked about it in January, and we're going to have a full-length interview with her, part 1 today and part 2 next week with Dava from Tennessee. So stay tuned for that, because naturism is for everybody. Clothes-free living for all the right reasons, but clothes-free living for all people. And so we'll again talk to Dava today, part 1. We hope that you have been enjoying Nude Recreation Week, although to you and to us here, it's just another week on the calendar because we're always nude. We don't stay clothed 51 weeks a year and, hey, let's whip it off the second week of July. But it's good to have it out there. It promotes naturism, nudism, clothes-free living, gets people to at least think about it. Hey, what is this naked thing they do, Nude Recreation Week? They look into it, they decide to try it, and then we have more people who are comfortable and relaxed in their own skin and enjoying life. We'll talk to Lisa Monroe about that as well. But for now, you are listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 55. And now let's get to my brief interview with author MJ Edington. We are headed over to Colorado today, and we are going to talk to a gentleman who's had quite an interesting career. We'll talk about that briefly, but mostly he's here today to talk about his new book, Naked Came the Hunter, a whole bunch about what naturism is and what it is not. So we'll get into the gritty details from Colorado, author MJ Edington. Good morning, MJ. How are you today, sir?
Good morning, Frank. How are you today?
Not bad at all. Life treating you okay in Colorado? Are you able to get outside and enjoy the sun, the wind, and everything else out there?
If it was treating me any better, there'd be a warrant on me.
And you're very familiar with warrants, so we'll talk about that in a moment. Just really quickly, when did you become a naturist nudist? Is it a lifelong thing or something recent or what?
Pretty much lifelong. And the first time I went to a nudist park, I was probably 19, 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in Indiana, Valparaiso, Indiana, a place called, I forget the name of the place, but it has been 50 years or better.
Right.
So, the memory is the second thing to go.
Yeah. And we forgot the first thing, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's right.
But one of my favorite places back there was the Ponderosa Nudist Park back in the ASA days of the American Sunbathing Association. And the reason it was called Ponderosa is the guy that ran the place was Harvey Schmidt. And he had 3 sons.
There you go.
So, Hoss and the boys.
That's great to hear. So, what got you into going to that park to begin with? You must have had an affinity or at least an interest in nudity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lifelong, ever since I was a boy. Heck, when I was a kid, we'd go skinny dipping down at a creek on Farmer DeVoisin's field.
Yeah.
And there was a rope hanging from an oak tree, and we'd swing out over the creek and just let go and fall in. And, back in those days, it was just a normal part of childhood, not an arrestable offense.
Exactly. That's how most of us grew up, and I wish we can get back to those days.
Absolutely.
Well, before we get into your book, Naked Came the Hunter, just give us a couple of words on your career, because you did some unusual things, all for the betterment of society. But what the heck did you do?
Well, ever since 2011, before that, I worked in radio. I spent about 20 years doing broadcast radio, went to work for AT&T, did that for about 8 years until I could no longer tolerate doing spreadsheets from morning until night.
Right.
And so I left that job. Now, after that, I kicked around a bit and then wound up creating my own business. I was a private investigator. I still am, for that matter. Private investigator, process server, the guy that comes to your door with legal papers saying you got a summons and complaint. We need to see you in court. Come on by. And then also a fugitive recovery agent, where we would go out and visit people, whether they wanted us to or not,
Right.
who had neglected to show up in court for their date. And we would remind them by virtue of putting them in handcuffs and bringing them back to jail. Now, this gave them the idea that maybe they should have made that court date. And now that they're in jail, the deputies would help them remember the next one.
There you go. So you did a lot of good for society, improving people's memories, if nothing else, right?
Pretty much, yeah. And speaking of memories, it's probably more than what I've got on my computer, because certainly mine's been slipping a few. I mean,
Well-
you get my age, and you think back on your conversations with Colonel Custer, and
Abe Lincoln, the whole thing. Well, it seems like a normal career path: radio, AT&T, bounty hunter. I think most people go down that road, don't they? All 3 roads?
No, I don't think
No?
so.
No, not at all. Okay.
No, most people get a job, pays well, sticks with it.
Yeah.
And no matter how much I was getting paid to do a job I didn't like,
Yeah.
it wasn't worth the money.
There you go.
There's the intrinsic factor that's really more important to me than anything else.
It really is. And you're enjoying what you're doing now? The
Well, I
detective work
was
and-
until COVID came along.
Yeah.
And it's like you go out and arrest somebody and bring them to the jail, and they wouldn't take them because they were afraid of COVID coming into their facility.
Sure.
So we'd end up having to cut them loose. The courts were all closed.
Yeah, that's right.
Lawyers weren't showing up for work. So
That's right.
we weren't getting any court papers to go out and serve on people. So my business just collapsed. Now,
Yeah.
unlike most people that cast about for somebody to cover the tab for them as they go through life, I cast about for something else to do.
Yeah.
And what I came up with was I've always had an affinity for writing.
Yeah.
And I decided it was high time to write a novel or two. And the Naked Came the Hunter is the end result, the latest of my novels. The first was called Cyclone Kid, a Colorado book about a Colorado guy who learns that he has a 16-year-old son nobody ever told him about.
Oh, very good.
And the kid didn't know anything about him either.
Yeah.
So that was my first one. Then I had another one about the upcoming civil war, which I think is becoming more and more evident as time goes on.
Oh, yes.
And then they put out a movie, so okay, fine. But now I've got Naked Came the Hunter, and it's really my love letter to nudism.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about it. Basically, a guy was nearly killed, and people from a nudist community came over and took care of him. Just take us through it.
Well, what happened was in the hills of West Virginia, in the dense forest, a man lay dying, mauled viciously by somebody or something. We don't know,
Right.
The hikers who stumble upon him are nudists.
Okay.
And the nearest place they can take him where they can get a helicopter in for Flight for Life or anything is their own nearby community of the Eagle Mountain Naturist Enclave.
All right.
So they take him there, where they just happen to have, as a member of their community, a retired trauma surgeon. And he sets to work in a battle to save this man's life. When he regains consciousness, the first person he meets is a 6-year-old kid who considers herself a nurse.
Okay.
She's sitting there with a little paper hat, a nurse's hat of white folded paper with a red cross on the front, crudely drawn with crayon. And she goes and gets her mother. Her mother comes in, and this guy is thinking, well, that kid's running around Starker's. Mother's going to get after her. Well, Mama walks in the room, and she ain't wearing nothing but a stethoscope around her neck. And that's when he is informed that he is in the care of a nudist community. And now not only must he recover from his injuries, which are many and severe, not only is he dealing with amnesia, he can remember nothing before waking up in that cabin, but Jennifer, who is his nurse, taking care of him in a log cabin out in this nudist community, isolated from the world, pretty much in a forest. Well, he learns that he's not only got to recover his memories, not only got to recover his injuries, but he's got to deal with some real significant culture shock, too.
I would say so, yeah.
And this is a great book for a nudist because the overall mystery tale by itself is a good mystery tale. On the other end of the spectrum, for the non-nudists, they've got the mystery story, but they learn about what nudism is as he does. So it's not pontificating or preaching a subject. He's learning about it bit by bit, and the reader takes along with the story and absorbs that information as well. So it's great if you've got textile people in your family or friends who don't understand your proclivity for nudism. It helps to explain it to them in simple terms because they're explaining it to him in simple terms. And the reader just goes along for the ride, and they learn what it isn't as well. It's not sexual, it's not pornographic, it's not erotic. It's just straight up, we would rather go in life as God created us to be.
There you go. And basically the bottom line is just people helping people. Clothes-free, stress-free, just helping you out. All right.
You got it, sir.
Well, very good. Author MJ Edington. We want you to check out his book, Naked Came the Hunter. And MJ, before we let you go, how can people find you? You have a website? Where can they buy your books?
I do have a website, cyclone-creek.com. That's cyclone, like a hurricane, dash creek, like what you can go wading in. Cyclone-creek.com. And in addition to that, you can find me just by punching in my name to Google, and you'll see a whole lot of stuff about me in there.
All right. Well, very good. Glad to have you on the show. Best wishes on this book, Naked Came the Hunter by MJ Edington. And MJ, go out there and have a great close-free day. We'll talk again soon.
You got it, sir. And thank you for the interview. I appreciate you.
You bet. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye. author MJ Edington. His new book, Naked Came the Hunter. You can get that wherever books are sold. We also put his website for you in the show notes. So check it out, Naked Came the Hunter by MJ Edington. Well, you are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 55 today. Thank you for being with us. We enjoy this time together. We look forward to it, and here we are, enjoying this 1 hour a week we get to have with you, celebrating clothes-free living for all. And I don't know about you, but do you hear music sneaking in? It's been sneaking in the last few moments. You know what? I think it is. I think it's the music. It's time for the great, the terrific, the one-of-a-kind, Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one and only, the way over-the-top clothes-free and extra smiling today for some reason, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
I'm doing terrific today. It's a good day to be a naturist, and I also brought cookies.
Oh, very good. I didn't see those yet, but I will definitely check them and partake. I can have at least one, right?
You can have at least one. You might even let you have two if you're good. Only if you're good.
All right. Now, obviously, you're extra naked today, but you're extra smiling today. Is it because the announcement we're about to make? That's why I'm smiling. How about you?
Absolutely. This is a thrilling day and something that we're really excited about and looking forward to doing. And it's just a remarkable next turn of events for us.
Yeah, very well said. Now, we have the announcement is, if people have checked our Twitter feed and our website, it's there. It's also on the AANR site, as people call it, AANR, which stands for American Association for Nude Recreation. We are now partners. We have created a partnership with AANR, so it's AANR and N cubed, I guess we could say.
I like that N cubed. The scientist in me likes that. Go for that.
Right. A lot of people go, whatever they understand squared.
Right.
This is cubed because it's 3.
Yes.
But we have a partnership now with AANR, which means that there'll be some changes to the show, but not substantial. We'll still have the same show, an hour a week, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on Spotify. It goes to all podcast platforms after that. But we might end up having more AANR people on, people from clubs and resorts and beaches and whatever they do out there. And we'll be working closely over the next month or so with Mitch London, the current president of AANR, who was hugely instrumental in pulling all of this together. He and I had talked about it, and then he hit up his people, his board, his trustees, and all kinds of people that he dealt with and sold the idea to, and they bought it. And I talked to a few of them who had additional questions, and we took care of those questions. And then, of course, when Linda Weber takes over in mid-August, and then we'll work closely with her as well. And by the way, congratulations and hats off to Linda Weber for being voted president a few weeks ago. How about that?
It's amazing. And I first want to say that, Mitch has been a wonderful guest and a wonderful friend of this show. And we really appreciate the efforts that he went through to bring this partnership together. And to Linda, congratulations. I think she'll be an amazing president of AANR and look forward to working with her in the future to grow this organization.
Yeah, and that really is the purpose and the goal of the whole partnership, is to increase membership and grow the organization. As we call it here, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. AANR stands for the same exact thing, so that's why we are doing this together, and we're looking for big things. Now, we've already had a lot of AANR people on the show. We mentioned Mitch London, of course. I'll probably forget somebody, but, Ronna Crozy has been on. She'll be on again in August. Tim Mullins, obviously, Linda Weber, certainly Andy Rogers, and a number of other people who are members of AANR. We've had them on the show, and they belong to clubs, resorts, and they're big wheels in the area of nude recreation. So we will have more people on, whether it's shorter interviews or the full-length interviews, depending on what they do and what they need. But fully blown partnership has begun between AANR and Naked Nudists and Naturists, and we're excited. And I know you are too, Lisa.
Oh, I'm extremely excited. And it's just a great way to get out information. Not everyone has time to look at the website. Not everyone has time to do other things. But, if they're in the car and they're listening to us, then maybe they're going to hear things about Anna that they had not heard before, or events going on, or a new organization, or something that's happening. So if we could just get a little bit more information out, it'll be a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, oh, very much so. And that's one of the unique advantages we have with this show is we do have a brand new show every single week. So
Right.
it's not as though we have to wait 6 months. By the way, 6 months ago was a big event. You should have been there. It was great. We need to say it's
Exactly.
coming now. And we do record these shows a bit in advance now. We did not when we first started, but with my travel schedule and your travel schedule, and I've already mentioned some family things going on, all positive for the most part, that will take me away. We're banking a few episodes in advance. However, if something comes up at the last minute, let's say it's a Thursday night or a Friday morning, and Anna calls and says, "Hey, I know you've already recorded Saturday show. Can we squeeze this in?" We'll find a way to do it because we want the members and the global naturism, nudism community to understand what's going on. If we have to get a last minute announcement out there, we will. And that's why we are doing this partnership.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, that's the beauty of it, that we have, even though we may be planning a bit ahead, we also are incredibly flexible, and we'll do what we need to do to help.
Absolutely. Now, it's also been this week, we've been celebrating Nude Recreation Week all week long, starting on Monday of this past week. It's always the second week of July, I believe. And today is National Skinny Dipping Day. Have you done any skinny dipping yet, or is that yet to come today?
One of my favorite things to do is skinny dipping. And I have not yet today, but I think some plans are in the works for the afternoon. Definitely. A few cookies, some skinny dipping, life is good.
Will you enjoy the cookies while you're skinny dipping, or are those two separate events?
Well, because I don't swim very well, it's not so hard. I can stay in the shallow end and keep the cookies dry. So I think I can handle both, actually.
Okay, well, that sounds good. That's something I do fairly regularly, at least as often as I can. Certainly, if I've been working outside,
Right.
that's a prerequisite, at least in my mind. Before I come into the house to shower, I dive in the pool. And it just cools me right off, and it's refreshing and relaxing. The only downside is then I have to get out of the pool, which I never want to do. Once in, you want to stay in, but
No.
you do have to get out. Otherwise, people will start to worry about you. He's not answering his phone. I don't know what happened. And they find you in the pool
Yeah.
on a raft,
Well,
still
there are
enjoying
worse
it.
places to be, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely so. And tomorrow, July 14th, is National Nude Day. Wouldn't it be great if everybody in the country, North America, Northern, wherever, the whole world would be nude for one day? Wouldn't that be great?
Well, it would change the perspective of everything, I think, if that would happen,
Yeah,
and it would be terrific. And unfortunately, probably not going to happen, but it would be wonderful.
yeah. Because, as we have said before, and many of our guests have said too, once you try it, you never want to go back. Because when you experience the breeze on your skin, the warmth, just a connection with nature, for lack of a better term, the grass on your feet, you don't want to go back, do you? Once you go clothes free, you don't want to put them back on.
No, and the best way I can describe it is there's a heightened perception of the
Hmm.
world when you're have no barriers between you and the outdoors. And I had been naked at beaches and places like that before, but the first time I took off my clothes and walked outside in an environment where there was nobody else around for miles, and I could just strip off and take a little hike. Amazing how that
Mm.
felt. Absolutely amazing, because there's a complete difference in how you look at the world. I don't know how to describe it. I think it's something everyone has to experience, but it's a wonderful feeling.
Oh, it very much is. And of
Mm.
course, we've been trained and indoctrinated,
Mhm.
get all of your clothes on, maybe three or four shirts in case two or three rip, you still have a spare in place. But not the way to go. And as just about everybody who's been on the show has said, either on the air or off the air, we were born naked. That's how we were intended to be. And that's very true. It sounds like a joke. And I guess it does get a reaction from people who have never thought of it before, but it is true. We are born with no clothes on. It's then we, as people, decide, oh, that's not good at all. We should have clothes on, even though we were born without. So keeping him without and it feeling good, I guess it makes sense, doesn't it?
I think it does. And I think we should just blame the fashion industry. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the ones that created clothes. So, and again, they're pushing them on us. That no, I'm kidding. I do like a good fashion industry every now and then, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're so indoctrinated now that we have to be clothed that it is just almost impossible to get some people to come back to the reality that this is how we're supposed to be. If we're, if we're not freezing to death, then we shouldn't be encumbering ourselves with textiles, but
Right.
we are.
Yeah, and we're always careful. You mentioned freezing to death. We're not going to go
Hmm.
out in the middle of a
No,
snowstorm and spend 8 hours in the nude outside. Nor are we going to, it's 100 degrees and not going to bake in the sun for 8 hours. We're not going to
no,
be silly or ridiculous. But you can still live nude, even if it is freezing, even if it is hot. You just don't have to be in the
exactly.
elements. You can go outside for a few minutes, come back inside, but don't put your clothes on when you do, and you just stay nude, right?
Yes, and in the winter and the cold climes, I would be inside, maybe naked,
Inside.
but
Yeah,
inside.
yeah, yeah.
In the summer, I hate air conditioning, so I'd rather be out in the heat naked. So, there's so many decisions, so many decisions.
Yeah. Well, this past week, then, National Nude Recreation Week, other than in your kitchen, noodly baking these cookies, have you done anything else this week that we can talk about in far as celebrating Nude Recreation Week?
Well, a trip to the beach in midweek happened to have some time, so
Mhm,
that was wonderful. And so it's just so nice. It's been cooler here a tiny bit.
mhm.
And after the hard rain that we've had, it was nice to have just an hour or so on the beach to enjoy that. And not a whole lot of other things other than just knowing that this is a week for people to really have fun and you know remember why this is fun for us. This is it's nude recreation, but you don't have to recreate. You don't have to play volleyball. You don't have to play pickleball. That's the thing now. Just enjoy yourself. Take a walk. Take you know just understand that this is what this is all about. Just having a good time being a naturist.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and of course, I think the reason they call it Nude Recreation Week, if for no other reason, it gets the name out there. You're hearing nude, you're
Hmm.
hearing recreation, which always sounds like fun. You're hearing a whole week long. These people are going to be naked. And of course, the answer is no. We're going to be naked all 52 weeks. we're just we're just designating a week to the rest of you to give it a shot. And there are many examples out there. We went through a few before, but if it's something that some people, it sounds interesting, but I don't know. Well, just start off being naked in your house. Maybe cleaning, vacuuming, dusting, making dinner, reading a book with no clothes on. That's sometimes a very good way to start and break the ice, so to speak, right?
It is. And I think, when I got started as a college student, because of the worshiping of the sun, I'm a Leo, so what
Mhm.
can I tell you? But so I got used to being naked sunbathing. And then I kind of continued that on wherever I could. And then it was just kind of walking around the house and enjoying it. And then suddenly it became more and more and more as I became more confident with being out in public doing that. And it's just a wonderful way to live.
It
And
is.
so naked inside, naked outside where it is appropriate.
That's right. Sort of reminds me of that song. I don't know if I have the lyrics correct, but sugar in the morning, sugar in the evening, even at supper time. Well, let's change sugar to naked. Naked in the
Yes.
morning,
Yes. Yes.
naked in the evening, even at supper time.
I like that. And sugar is bad for you, so but naked is good for you. So it's perfect.
It's very good for you. We went through some of the health benefits a week or two ago. So, Nude Recreation Week is, well, we've just had it this week. National Skinny Dipping Day today,
Hmm.
National Nude Day tomorrow. And we are just really excited and pleased as punch, as the expression goes, that we are now partnering with the American Association for Nude Recreation. We are the official podcast of the American Association for Nude Recreation. And jointly, we will promote all that they do, all that we do. And the goal, of course, is to increase membership, increase activities, and just make everybody happier about enjoying clothes free life. I'm guessing you agree.
I agree completely. I think this is an exciting time for naturists and for us. we're starting to see, some movement in the organization, and it's just going to be a wonderful partnership and just fun to be part of.
Absolutely. And again, thank you to Mitch London and to Linda Weber, both supporters of what we do here. And Lisa, with that in mind, we're going to have to duck out of here and get to the interview. But go out there and have a great clothes-free week. We'll talk again next time.
Okay, and I hope everybody skinny dips today and runs around naked tomorrow. Just stay, someplace where you don't get caught.
Right.
if you can't do it. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Lisa. See you next week. Thanks.
Bye, Frank.
Bye. The terrific Lisa Monroe, a very important part of our show here. We thank her again for her segment, her website work, her meme work, the terrific Lisa Monroe. And yes, we are thrilled to be partnering with AANR, AANR, the American Association for Nude Recreation, promoting membership and the nude lifestyle, clothes-free living for all. Well, you are listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 55 today. Now let's get to part one of my interview with Dava. Hey! Why is naturism so white? Well, we'll figure this out. We'll get Dava to a place where she can enjoy clothes-free living for all. But here we go. Part one of my interview with Dava from Tennessee. We are headed to the great state of Tennessee today. We're going to meet up with somebody who was on the show before, African-American woman, black woman. She wrote to us and basically said, what in the world's going on with naturism? Seems to be a whole lot of white people, not too many black people. In fact, I'll read her email again in just a few moments. But first, let's welcome her to the show from Tennessee, Dava. Good morning, Dava. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Not bad at all. Appreciate you asking. We can see each other on the screen. You have no problem with being a naturist, being nude. It's just a matter of finding a place to go, right?
Oh no, I'm here. I'm enjoying the nudist life all for all the right reasons.
That's right. That's what we say every single time. I want to just take a moment before we start. I want to read your message that you sent to us back in November of 2023. This is what triggered this whole conversation. The first interview, now this one, the full-length one, says, hi, exclamation point. I always like when people say hi with an exclamation point. That's positive. That means something good's coming. My name is Dava, and I am currently in the middle of a binge listen deep dive of your podcast. I started at 19, and I'm working my way back to number 1, currently at number 10. Again, this is back in November. I love your podcast, even though I listen during my commute to and from work, so I'm not clothes-free when listening. I wanted to make a comment about when you spoke about how difficult it is to tell textiles that you are living a clothes-free lifestyle. If you think you have it bad, try being a Black Naturist. I have an awesome resort nearby that my husband and I frequent, as we are quite comfortable developing friendships with our less melanated brothers and sisters, especially nude ones, as that arena is much less racist, if at all, than the real world. But when we go, we are mostly raisins in the sun. How did naturism get so white? And that was your first message to us. We got you on the show to discuss it. And I don't know the answer. I didn't even know that it was until you brought it to our attention. So what's going on out there? Is that still the same deal? You show up and you're the only black people in the place, or what?
It's true. It's true.
Oh.
Whenever I go to a nudist resort, it is basically me and Big Daddy, and really truly Big Daddy is not a nudist.
Okay.
He is a guy who is in love with a nudist. Who says that he just likes being anywhere where Dava feels relaxed and free. That's why he's willing to go to the nudist resort with me and, hang out in the sun and chit chat and talk with everybody and, play lawn games and, go to whatever event they have going on. It's awesome. We have an awesome time. But we're the only, every once in a while, we'll go and we'll see one other Black person, or maybe two on a strange occasion. When the planets align, we will see two other Black people there. But mostly it's just us. But everybody, hey, how you doing? Hey, come on over here and talk to us. What you doing? I had to introduce yourself. Tell me about yourself. I mean, no thought of any difference between the two of us at all.
Yeah.
And so I really enjoy that because in my mind, there's one race, the human race.
That's it. And that's what makes naturism so great is everybody accepts everybody. There's no black,
Right.
white, purple, whatever. It's just you're you, I'm me, they are them, and let's get together and talk. And
Right.
it's amazing how quickly people become friends at naturist communities. They just, I've never seen you before. What's your name? Here's my name. And before you know it, you're talking, maybe sharing iced tea or something else. You would never do that in a place that was textile. They go to a restaurant. Hi, my name's so and so. Mind if I sit down at your table? They'll call security and have you
So like,
escorted out.
excuse me, please go away.
That's right. But with clothes off, sure. Hey, have a seat here. We're just about to order lunch. What do you want for lunch? We'll order. Totally,
Yeah,
totally different reaction, isn't it?
exactly. Exactly. I remember the first time we went to Rock Haven. Rock Haven is the name of the resort that we go to here in Tennessee. It's in Murfreesboro.
Okay.
Probably my favorite place on the entire planet. We first went there my first time. It was I wanted to go because I had never been outside nude. I had never been outside in the air outside of my house nude. So I wanted to experience that. And so of course, Big Daddy is not a nudist. So he was feeling some kind of way. So so we got there and they have these little cabins and everything for you to spend the weekend and such. So we went to the cabin and we were sitting there in the cabin. I was like, okay, now let's go out and do something, you know. And I go running out from that cabin. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just like I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And he's standing at the door looking at me. And I was like, come on out. It's gonna be great. And he was like, okay. So he comes out and is very, very hesitant, very, very uncomfortable. And I can tell that. So
Yeah.
I said, well, let's go. They have an open air restaurant there.
Okay.
And the food is actually really good.
Yeah.
So I said, let's go see if we can get something for lunch. And so he said, well, there's other people there. I said, and they're all new.
Yeah. Right.
So he was like, oh no.
Yeah, I know.
So
Yeah.
we went over there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, Frank, we went over there, ordered our food. And by the time we sat down to, find a table to sit down to eat, a guy came over. He was like, hey, you're new. What's your name? He was like, oh, my name is Herman, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I saw you drive in. You got that Buffalo Bills sticker on your car.
Yeah.
What, are you a Bills fan?
Yeah.
Bam.
There you go.
Next thing you knew, 15 minutes later, it was him and 4 other guys sitting around talking about football and this and that and the other, and he completely forgot he was new.
Isn't that amazing how that works? It really does work that way. It sounds like we're making it up, but it really does happen, and you're living proof of it, right?
It is true. It is true.
That is great to hear. And this has become somewhat of your home club. That's where you go when you go.
Right. When I go there, that's, I would love to be a member. I remember the first time we went there and learned that people actually live there.
Oh.
People get their mail there.
Yeah, right.
People, this is their 12 months out of the year. This is where they live.
Yeah.
My mind was blown. I was like,
yeah.
Can we?
Yeah.
Like, no, we cannot.
That's
what
right.
would I do when my mother comes to visit?
Well,
what would I do when I was like, okay, these are not things that I thought out.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, you can just say, welcome to our home. Come on in.
Yeah. My in-laws would be like, oh my God. Because I gotta tell you, when you tell somebody Black that you are a naturist,
yeah,
you are kind of looked at like, okay, what's wrong with this shit? Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
She's super different.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you get, hey, Shaquita, come over here. Ask Dava what she just told me.
Yeah. I bet. Yeah.
He comes over, what's happening? Oh yeah. I just told her that I'm a nudist.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. You know, so I mean, I've never, I think I've had one instance where I told somebody black that I enjoy being nude. And they said, actually, yeah, me too, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Wow.
I've only had one friend that I told that, and she said, I don't know. How do you come to do that? How do you come to be that?
Yeah.
I don't understand how people come. I said, well, you take your clothes off.
Pretty simple, right?
And then there you are that. Since they said, and I started telling them about Rockhaven, and they were like, "Oh, you gotta take me. We gotta go." And we went, and another one of our friends went with us. It was one of our less melanated friends.
Yeah.
She came with us, and we had a ball that weekend.
There you go.
Matter of fact, that was the weekend where they had a event where it was a karaoke event. It was like a karaoke party, and I mean, for two women who had never been nude in public, you would never know it.
Wow.
These women were up there doing the karaoke. By the end of the party, they were doing the naked wobble. And it was like, you would never think that they had never been nude in public.
Wow, that's good to hear on the one hand. On the other hand, when you go back to what you said a few moments ago, in the black community, you tell somebody you're a nudist and they look at you kind of funny. Why do you think that is? And do you think it's more so in the black community than other communities?
And I think there's an odd thought about black people who do white things.
Okay.
Black people, they look at you and say, "Oh, you're not really in the culture. You're okay. You're not familiar with the culture."
Way back when I was a kid, let's say middle school, so as I like to say, 158 years ago, whatever. You know, the school library would have these National Geographic magazines, and almost every issue had African women, not African American women, but African women from Africa, and they'd be out in the middle of nowhere, either nude or certainly topless. And to some boys, that's how they got their first experience seeing what a nude woman looks like, is black women being nude in National Geographic, of all things. So to me, it's not that odd, but you're saying in the black community in America, it is?
In the black community, when you are willing to be nude in public, or be either you are super hypersexual and are a swinger, or B, not quite everything there, then just a couple of fries short of a Happy Meal.
That's hilarious.
So, you get that kind of look, like, oh God. When I came out to my brothers, and I mean in the black community, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're coming out.
Yeah.
As a nudist.
Okay.
When I came out to my brother, he was like, "So you just be walking around white folks."
Oh,
You just be walking around white folks, just nude. Do you have underwear on? I was like, "No, I'm nude."
Yeah, right.
So how do you know that they're not thinking some racist thing? I said, how do you know that woman who you work with is not thinking some racist thing?
There you go. That's exactly right.
How do you know that your Uber driver is not thinking some racist thing?
That's right.
You don't know. You never know. I said, but I got to tell you, if they are, they're all magnificent actresses and actors and should all be in Hollywood.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You don't know what they're thinking, but you know how they're acting towards you. And in a naturist community, they act a whole lot better than they do in real public life, right? At the store or on the street, right?
And remember that I was telling you about that first time at Rockhaven? When we drove into that community, there was a guy who, for reasons unknown, had a Confederate flag.
Oh boy.
Hanging on his home. And Big Daddy was like, "Oh, so we're doing this, huh? We're
Here we go.
This is the real deal."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, oh my god." So I mean, I gotta tell you, that was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I spoke to the lady. I said, are we safe here?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, that guy lives here.
Yeah.
And so, it's not like I can go to him and say, hey, you got to take that down. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But I can understand your hesitancy. But truly, he's very much the introvert. He never comes out of his house. Every once in a while, you might see him come out and water those little tulips that you see in the front.
Yeah.
But other than that, nothing.
Oh, we don't know.
And I was like, okay. We were kind of hesitant. Then one evening we were going for a walk and we passed by his house and he was out.
Oh boy. Okay.
And I was like, oh, he's watering the tulips.
Yeah.
And so we I said, should we say hi or should we make no eye contact?
Yeah.
And so at first, Big Guy said, let's just walk on by. I was like, okay.
Mm.
So we were walking by and all of a sudden I just got the feeling. And I turned around and looked at him and I was like, hey, brother, how you doing?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said hi. It was, it was almost like, if you're going to force me, I guess I'll raise my hand.
Yeah.
But and then he like hurried into the house. And then he said, oh, he hurried into the house. I was like, well, she said he's an introvert.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily us. He may have hurried into the house for anybody, so.
Right.
You never really know what the situation is, but when you're in this community and you have the history that we have, it's understandable.
Yeah.
It's understandable to be uncomfortable around a huge amount of white people.
Yeah.
In the woods.
Yeah. In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's understandable. Yeah.
But you have found now, having said what you just said, in a naturist community with billions of white people and you and your husband as the only black people, it still feels pretty good and pretty natural and pretty safe, right?
I think because of my background, Big Daddy went to an all-white college.
Okay.
I was raised in private schools. And so we're kind of comfortable around you guys.
Okay.
So, it's kind of because we were raised in comfort around you guys, even though our home neighborhood, we were raised in a very urban, let's say that, very urban area. But I remember when we were little, I was a very little girl, me and my brother. One day he ran up to me and said, come look. And I said, what? And we ran to the window and there was a white guy walking down the street.
That was a big event.
What? We're just staring at me, like looked up into the window. Hi. Yeah. Hi. Look, he's waving. Hi. It's so funny.
But I mean, mostly at the Naturist Club, you don't really feel unsafe there, even around.
Not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, that's one of the questions I get a lot.
Yeah.
How do you sleep? Do you stay there all weekend? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you sleep at night?
Yeah.
With so many. I said, how do you sleep in a hotel?
Yeah, there you go.
But there's so many white people on that floor.
Well,
How do you sleep in that? They're like, yeah, but we have clothes on. I said, yeah, but if somebody wanted to come and do something to you, I don't think that would hinder them.
No, not at all.
At all. So I think it's just the discomfort of the history. And then on top of it, you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
You're open and vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, I think people are figuring out, and maybe naturist people have to lead the way, that we're just all human beings. Doesn't matter male, female, color. background, none of that matters. We're still human beings.
Oh, yeah.
Naturists seem to get that more than other people. You wouldn't get that necessarily at a grocery store or just walking down the street in a different neighborhood, but you get it at a naturist community. Just everybody's accepting of everybody. It's almost
Right.
amazing, like we're watching a movie, except we're not. People are really just because I think
Exactly.
at that point everybody realizes, okay, I'm nude. I am not perfect. I don't look like the Hollywood stars, but you know what?
Exactly.
She's not either. So why don't we just accept each other? I don't know if it's a conscious decision or we're just the clothes come off and we accept everybody, and it's an amazing transformation. And that's what you've experienced at your club, right?
It is true. And it was funny. The first time going there, when I was making the reservations,
Yeah.
and I was talking to the woman who owns it. I said, the thing is, I'm a cancer survivor,
Yeah.
and one of my breasts is deformed from surgery. I said, is that going to be a problem? And she was like, honey, it's not going to be a problem. Matter of fact, when you get here, I got a big surprise for you.
Yeah.
And when I got there, she was also a breast cancer survivor and had a one-sided mastectomy.
There you go.
And I was like, oh my gosh, we immediately hugged.
Yeah. That's exactly
She
it.
said, yeah, I thought you'd get a kick.
Yeah.
Because, it's no one cares.
Yeah. No, not at all. Now, before you went there and you called and asked that question, that's a legitimate question. Okay, I have a couple of flaws here body wise. Can I still get in? If you don't
Right.
know, you don't know, you don't know. So you asked the question, she gave the answer she gave, and then you got there, and suddenly you're instant best friends. Happens over and over.
Exactly. So, and that's why I always say nudism is like the great equalizer.
Yeah.
It makes everybody on the same plane.
Yeah.
Everybody is on the same plane. Nobody is better or less than, or I remember one time we were at the resort, and we were talking to this one guy. He was so funny, like super funny guy, and he had us cracking up. And when I say all weekend,
Yeah.
I was sitting by the pool, just cracking up, laughing at these jokes with this guy. And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I hope I see you again another weekend." And I was like, "Yeah, me too, because you are super cool."
Yeah.
And as we were going out, somebody said, "Oh, I see you talk to the congressman." I said, "I
Whoa.
didn't mean a congressman. I don't know anybody who's a congressman.
Exactly.
It's not us." I was like, "What are you talking about? You're talking to him the whole weekend around the side of the boat." I was like, "What?"
See, that's
So,
what it does. Absolutely.
so I mean, the thing is, we would have had no idea.
Exactly.
Because I mean, it's the great equalizer.
Yeah.
I'm just a nurse who works every day, and this guy is a congressman. How would I know that?
You wouldn't.
So
You just know that he's another human being, just like you're a
right.
human being. And so let's sit down and talk and laugh. And
Lesser melanated, more melanated.
that's right. That's all. And we don't even
That's
care
all.
about that. We don't care about that.
No one. I'm taller. Some people are shorter.
Right.
My hair is in locks. Some people's hair is loose.
Right.
So it's just a difference of who you are, what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what it comes down to. Now, I remember the last time you were on, you told a story that I got a kick out of. If you don't mind retelling it, I think you were dating a guy and he said, "Hey, you want to come to my house for a bit?" And before you walked in, he said, "Oh, by the way, my mother's a nudist." And you walked in and she was totally nude, just cooking away and no big
Yeah, that
deal.
was my first
Yeah.
introduction to nudism.
Yeah.
I knew it was a thing, but I didn't really know what it was.
Okay.
And this was in college.
Yeah.
I was dating a guy who super cool guy. And one day we were driving around. He had a motorcycle, and I was on the back of the motorcycle. It was just this whole thing. Anyway, so I as we were driving, he said, "Hey, we're near my mother's house, and I need to stop by there. Would you mind us stopping by my mother's house?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I have no problem with that.
Sure.
I'd love to meet your mother."
Yeah.
And so we get there, And we get up to the porch, and he's getting ready to knock, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, you know what?
One last thing to
One
tell you.
thing."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?" And I was so afraid that he was gonna say, "She's racist." That's what I thought he was gonna
Okay.
say, because this is a white guy,
Oh,
you
okay.
know.
Okay, gotcha.
And I was like going, I'm so afraid he's gonna say, "Okay, just steel yourself up because she's gonna say a bunch of racist stuff."
Yeah.
But instead, he said, "She's a nudist."
Uh-huh.
I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, when we get in here, she's probably gonna be nude."
Yeah.
I said, "Really?" He was like, "Yeah." And I was like, I was almost like I couldn't wait to get in there because I needed to understand what this
Sure.
was.
Absolutely.
So he went in and knocked on the door. She said, "Come on in." And he opened the door, and she was there at the stove cooking something, and "Hey, how you doing?" Blah blah blah. And I mean, she was completely new.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was just like, "Oh my God." So you're okay being nude in front of your son? And she was like, "Oh, he was raised nudist. He's just running around here in clothes now." He was raised nudist. I was
Oh,
like,
okay.
"Was
Okay.
he?" She was like, "Yeah. When he was a little boy, he just run around nude all the whole time. The only problem was had a hard time potty training him because he kept wanting to pee in the coffee in the
Oh, geez.
flower pots and everything."
Uh,
So I thought that was funny. But anyway, she said that his entire of his coming up, he would come home from school, take off his clothes, and be nude in the house. And that was the rule, that you need to be nude in the house.
Sure.
And I said, "How did you feel about that?" And he was like, "Really, truly, I had the
Yeah.
best upbringing ever."
Yeah.
He said, "I've never felt more free about myself and who I am."
Right.
He said, "Not just about my body, about who I am as a person. If I had been raised by someone else, I don't know if I would have that feeling." And that just planted a seed in me. It planted it planted a seed. And the thing is, I was like, I went back to the dorm, and I asked my roommate, I said, "What would you do if I just started being nude? And just started being nude all
Yeah.
the time. In every time I come in the
Oh,
room
really? Okay.
and then be in the
Okay.
dorm room, I'd be nude."
Yeah.
She
Oh.
said, "I would ask for another roommate."
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well,
I said,
yeah.
"Would you?" She said, "Yeah, because apparently you've lost your mind." And I was like, "Are you serious? Just because I want to be nude?" She said, "Just because you want to be nude all the time. I can see if you're coming from the shower or, you're getting dressed or something, changing clothes. But if you want to just sit here and study nude, yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah. Well,
And I need to get away from you."
unfortunately,
And
that's how a lot of people view the lifestyle. It's got to be
that was
something
my
weird.
first understanding of the difference between white people and nudity
Yeah.
and Black people and nudity.
Okay.
It's a very and I think it has a lot to do. I think it has a lot to do with our history,
Okay.
because there was a time where our our nudity was something of pure shame in this country.
Okay.
Okay, where when a woman was in her little house, and a white man would come in there, the first thing you do is rip her clothes off.
Oh, okay.
And
I
it's
got you.
it's something that's ingrained in our community
Okay.
over the decades and decades.
Hmm.
And I know people always say, "Oh, they always talk about slavery, it's over." But truly, it it's ingrained in us from generation to
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah. Stories are passed down. Yeah. The terrific Dava from Tennessee. Part 2 of my interview with her on next week's show. Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 55 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts. And also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked Nudists and Naturists.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked Nudists and Naturists. Have a great clothes-free day.